consent agenda, item A for, Food and Child Nutrition Services. A through D. Any questions, comments? Okay. All right, thank you.
I have a question.
Communications Services Division. Before we start, the administration has requested that we pull item 1A. They want to go back to the table and consider other options on parent education services. So give them more time to research. Okay.
They're pulling 1A.
It's been pulled. They'll bring it back later for consideration once they make some decisions. Okay, items B.
It's going to come back in August.
Like August, September?
When you...
June. The board meeting.
Come back with June.
By board policy, we can bring something on the agenda that has not been discussed at the briefing if we inform the board president and the board. That's what we plan to do.
Then let's be open and transparent.
Yeah, let's
Be open and transparent and talk about it right now.
Let's see what's this.
Do you think it can wait till August until we...
It would be tougher for parent engagement, which is what this is about. I mean, obviously, we can wait if we have to wait.
We need to have a discussion.
We either need to, I think if you bring it to the board meeting on the 27th, it will...
If you're going to bring it on the 27th, we should talk about it.
Yeah, we should talk about it now, even any recommended changes that you're looking to make. Would that help? Okay. And you can get us information.
Are you prepared or you want me?
Well, I discussed what was being presented today. If there weren't changes to be made, would you care to discuss that?
So, let me introduce it and then you can add to it. So, we're trying to ensure we have better or stronger parent engagement, and we have put out for an RFP different vendors to help us with parent engagement, especially in the early grades. And so this is just one aspect of parent engagement that we're going to do in the district. And in this one aspect, this is about educating parents on how to work with their children and also access the schools better. In other words, training parents to do that and also work with their children. We would like to have the contract that we write, the RFP, to where we select more than one person or group that can do this. Okay. And that's the only reason for bringing it back. The content itself is the same. The question is, which groups will we have? 2 or 3 groups to work with, or just one?
Isn't this thing already listed so that you have 3 groups?
No, the backup information for this is just one. And so while it's listed here...
There's 3 on here. 3 on here.
There's 3. There's 3 listed on the...
No information about it.
Yeah, there were 3 approved vendors tied to the $219,000.
One out of Fresco, California, Dallas, and McKinney. Do you have any write-up on
No
that?
information on those.
It says approved vendors, and that's it. There's no other...
So I think it needs to be discussed further.
Sorry, that was changed then prior to this, prior to today, so...
Ms. Rodriguez, can I see the RFP and then back up on these 3 vendors, please? And what exactly the RFP said that they would do in the schools they would work with?
Well, we actually needed more information. All of us need to see that, because when I saw this and I didn't see any backup information, any real explanation and why, etc. So when I heard you say you're going to pull it so that you could provide that additional information, so as we were talking earlier about trustees not receiving enough information to make intelligent decisions, and I certainly would like to see more on this.
So that's the discussion. So if we brought you the RFP and the...
I think there's a bigger issue here, Trustee Cowell. We're going to need all information to make informed decisions. And the rate is going is saying we put it on the board agenda for June 27th and we vote on it without having adequate information, and then have to go to staff to get our questions answered, that all trustees should have those questions answered. So this, to me, is unacceptable. And if, we don't have all the information here. You want to bring it back on the 27th. It's unacceptable to me.
Well, I think, I agree. I think more backup could have been provided. However, I do like the option of approving multiple vendors. So if you can just provide us with the information we need to make an informed decision, that would help.
To make sure that I'm clear here, this thing is accurate other than the fact that it's missing the supporting documentation. Is that right?
It was provided with I approved 3 vendors
From the RFP?
from the RFP.
Okay, and these are the 3 vendors?
I was informed this morning that this was going to be pulled, and we were going to add all the vendors who had provided RFPs.
You're going to add some more vendors?
Yes.
Oh.
So all 5 will have an opportunity.
So, I'm sorry, there were 5 people?
So there were 5?
No,
No, that's what it says on the first page.
On the first page?
They received,
5 were received, 5 were
I was
compliant.
not a part of that conversation, so I
5
can't,
that were received. So what you're saying is now the intent is to include all 5.
that's my understanding.
yeah. I apologize. I thought the language was only 1, and I spoke with Dino earlier today, so I'm mistaken. We have the 3 on there, so the only thing I think needs to happen at this point is to provide just to provide any background information that you need for
Are we
that.
going with 5 or 3 or 2, or what are we going with?
Section
Ms. Rodriguez, do you know what we're going with?
I was not.
C, compliant.
Not a part of the conversation? Okay. Who was?
Dino and I talked about it this morning with Elsa Pennell, and that was the discussion we had. And I was mistaken. I thought there was only 1 based on the reading, my reading of it. So,
I'm sorry, can we get back to my question?
Yes.
So, there are 3 vendors on this thing.
And that's fine.
What's going to happen at the end of the month is there's going to be 2 added?
no, there'll be 3.
It's just going to be the 3?
Yes.
Okay.
So these are the approved vendors out of 5.
What we're missing then is the information on these vendors and then the RFP information that trustee Nuttall requested.
That's correct.
Okay.
They said receive 5 and it has 5 on here on the original paperwork.
That's right, so normally the scoring sheet and some information on those that do.
The scoring sheet, so we have.
We normally get all of the information.
Have it in the weekly update tomorrow so that we can get that, because we normally get that.
So to be sure about what we're going to receive, we're going to receive the scoring sheet for all 5. And we're going to receive a copy of the response from each of the 3 that you've selected. Your 4 proposals. We're going to get a copy of all 3 of those proposals. Is that correct?
And
I'd like to see all
RFP
5
itself.
proposals, actually.
As I recall, the 3 that were recommended were the top 3 scoring submitted to.
The other 2 responses?
I'm willing to see all 5.
Well, why don't you send us the entire RFP, the scoring sheet, and all 5 RFP responses? And that gives us, I think, all the information we need.
But we would normally get all of that attached. So what we normally get with all 5 attached.
Now, to keep us from having this type of conversation again, can we always get this when we have RFPs?
Supposed to, by policy.
To limit things like this, the discussion goes much longer about process than it needs to be.
Also,
I was just going to ask a clarifying question. I know we get the score sheets. I don't know that we get full-blown RFP responses for everybody that
Yes, we do.
Sometimes there's.
Yes, we do.
Sometimes.
It's always in the backup information because you can
stuff in the
compare.
back, but I'm talking about the ones that weren't awarded. I don't think we normally get that.
You see,
One thing we don't get awarded, but we at least get the proposal of one.
We have an explanation.
So,
Good afternoon. Just wanted to confirm that...
Just state your name.
Elsa Valenzuela Pennell, and Community and Family Relations under Communication Services. Just wanted to confirm that the way the document is written is for 1 vendor. If you look at the very bottom, the way it was initially written, there is a contract with 1 vendor, and should negotiations with that 1 vendor...
Parent.
Yes, sir. Should negotiations with that vendor not come to fruition, we would go to the next ranked vendor, which is what you see on page 2. But after we looked at our documents and after we looked at our action plans, we'd like to broaden this and include more vendors, which is why we respectfully request that we submit more information.
Okay, so there will be an amendment then to this first page of the board doc.
And so the three vendors that are listed are not the three you're requesting?
They would be included. There would be three of the...
So the first one is what you wanted, and the other two, if the first one, the original,
Yes, ma'am.
original, you want the first person?
Yes, ma'am.
And then the other two now you're asking to add?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
But you had 5 submitted?
We have 5 proposals submitted, yes, ma'am.
I think just for our comfort level, I think just give us all 5, just so we can see, and I think we understand now what the proposal is. Okay?
Just a question, on the 2 that were not listed here, what was their deficiency?
We had an evaluation committee that evaluated, and I can share that information with you.
No, just give me an idea what the deficiencies were. They didn't make the list.
Some of them did not include some information that was requested in the request for proposal.
And I see we have a company from Fresno.
Yes, sir.
Explain how they might be able to help us.
They had an excellent parent engagement model that they presented quite well, and we certainly wanted to include them and consider them in the future.
They have a Dallas location?
I'm not certain if they have a Dallas location, but they do service Dallas. And they've worked with Dallas ISD in the past.
How would they be able to work with our parents from California?
They have local representatives in Dallas, in this area. And again, they have worked with Dallas ISD in the past. So this is not a new vendor to Dallas ISD. This is someone that the district has done business with before.
So the company is from California, but they have local presence.
Yes, sir.
And Governor Perry will work to get through.
I don't Yes, ma'am.
What's the process for issuing the RFPs? You say you only heard from 5, and this
Yes, ma'am.
seems like a very, an area of high interest, I would
Yes.
think. So what was the process?
We work with the purchasing department. The information was sent out. It was publicized in the newspaper. And I don't think there's anyone from purchasing that can give you more detailed information. But the information was publicized. Any provider of parent engagement services was invited to submit a proposal and answer the questions. Now, of that, during that period that it was out, we only received 5 responses.
So did you specifically, for example, since Family Leadership of Fresno, California had worked with us before, did you specifically send the
Yes, ma'am. We do have a list of vendors that we have worked with in the past, so we worked through purchasing to issue a special invitation so they would be aware. But again, it was publicized in any one entity.
How many are on that list?
Off the top of my head, and I can verify this after the meeting, I want to say 8.
Okay. Would you send us that list?
Yes,
as well? And let's see. The proposals, although we don't always see all the proposals, there are sometimes that we do. It would be helpful to see those and who's behind this. This is a very important item. The other part of this is this request is being made from this year's budget, from the 2012-2013 budget?
No, ma'am, this would be for next school year, for 2013-2014.
Well then, so is this something that has been included in the budget request as well, in the budget that was built?
Some items aren't already included.
So is this an amount different from the items already included, or at least separate from those already included to be added to? Because this is for $219,000.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm sure there is, I should ask, I'm not sure. There's parental involvement or engagement money or request for funds in the budget.
Yes, ma'am.
How much of that includes the $219,000?
Some funds have already been allocated, and they are already in the current budget. Others may require an additional request, but I don't know at this time.
So is this one additional, or is this included?
Some of it is included already. Some of it has already, so of the 219, some has already been budgeted.
It's already been budgeted?
Has already been included in next year's budget.
Why don't we wait, why don't we save that question for our budget discussion, because Jim Terry's not here and he can probably answer better than...
It will be very helpful, because this is, if this is for next year, if we're requesting it now, and it's a part of the budget already, when we talk about overall parental engagement, it would be helpful to know how much of it is there and how much of it is here.
I want to just piggyback on that. As I read the justification, it talks about this is going to be specifically tied to the strategic feeder patterns. This is not parental engagement across the entire district.
It is district-wide. This particular item, the way it was written, it is district-wide, and that's what we're looking for 2013-2014 of vendor. So it says the district should provide supplementary parent education services district-wide with an emphasis at the 21 schools. So it would be a few additional services at the 21 schools, but every school will have services.
Yeah, I guess coming back to Trustee Ranger's issue, and I would probably take the same issue, I'd like to see what we've already allocated for all parental engagement, how this either is supplemental or different than what is showing up in the strategic feeder pattern versus the district as a whole. To me, this is just, parental engagement is such a critical part of, what we do and improving so much of the areas of our children's academic pathways that I just can't stress enough that we need to be putting, much more resources against parental engagement services. We've got some tried and true vendors here, so that's good news, but I do think we need to understand the totality of the budget, how it breaks out, where this fits relative to what's being discussed on the strategic feeder pattern initiative versus the rest of the district, because I don't want to see our comprehensives across the rest of the district being shortchanged, and I want to know that if we're adding a 219 or there's a specific point here with this, what we'd be voting here, the 219, 700, that where it goes.
Is there any other questions?
Just want to say that as far as the strategic feeder pattern is concerned, it says with an emphasis, and I too, when I read that, wondered, well, what does that mean? Is it $200,000 of this that will be going to the strategic feeder pattern, and yet there's other money that is included, I would assume, in that budget for parental engagement. Also, since that has not been approved, by approving this, we would be in effect, in my opinion, approving use of this in the strategic feeder pattern, which tends to, at this point, or seems to at this point, then approve the strategic feeder pattern when we haven't had a full discussion of that, and yet this amount, or some of this, it says it's emphasized, we're emphasizing, or placing emphasis on parental involvement there.
Well, when we approve the budget, correct me if I'm wrong, if we approve the budget as it's being presented to us, that strategic pattern will be approved, and as a result, if we approve this the same night, that'll be approved as well to go into that, so.
But we have asked, Mr. President, on several occasions for us to discuss and look at specifically, which we had some opportunity to do that at the last budget workshop, the strategic feeder pattern, or the Imagine 2020, or 2013? 2020. Well, okay, 2020 for that area of Dallas ISD, and the board hasn't fully said or has not said, we approve this, yet the program is, people are moving forward with it. And so this statement are included here with the 219,000. I'd like for that to be broken apart so that we'll know, well, what does that mean? And because the strategic feeder pattern has not been approved by board, although I heard some trustees say that we did a few months ago, and I've been searching and searching, haven't found that yet.
I would like to know what schools are going to be involved in it. And on top of the $8.9 million, are you adding this $219,000 to that in the strategic feeder pattern? Or where is that fitting in on the parental side of that?
Moving on.
Oh, yes. So you're saying that you're bringing this back in June for us to vote on, even though now the information we're going to receive it's important for us to discuss that in the briefing format. It is important for everyone to hear that discussion, because what we're going through now, we don't even have all the information, and that's not, you made decision to make that change because you realized that we didn't have it, or you made some different decisions. But the board needs to hear, and I want to hear, if another trustee has some questions or concerns, I want to hear those, and not just an email that somebody sends to somebody and someone gets a response. So it's not helpful, and then we're talking about the board meeting, and we spend a long time on this, and we've got a big budget discussion. That just doesn't, it doesn't serve us well, and it certainly doesn't serve the public well. If this is to come back, and I disagree that it should, because we don't have the information, and we already see that there are questions about it, this should definitely, I am requesting that this be pulled for a separate vote, because there's a lot of information and there's a lot of discussion, and we haven't had sufficient discussion in order to make an informed, intelligent, good governance decision for our district on this item.
Second it.
So just make sure I understand. Carla brought up about the feeder pattern. Is this only for the strategic feeder patterns?
No, sir, this is district-wide, so it's parent engagement district-wide. But again, the revised version that you would receive, whether it's in June or at a later date, would outline that, and I would specify each schools, but what we're looking as far as parent engagement services is district-wide. We're looking for a model that can supplement what we're doing in community and family relations, and that can reinforce what we're already doing with the resources the district has in-house.
I want to be sure to explain why you selected the campuses. Because in past years, questions have always come up. Why this campus and not another campus?
Well, and to clarify, the model we're looking at, every campus will receive services from these funds. That's really what we're looking for moving forward.
Mr. President, but it does say, and it seems to me that there must have been some point to saying the purchase would allow the district to provide supplementary parent education services district-wide, with an emphasis in the strategic feeder pattern initiative schools, 21 throughout the year, etc. So that, I assume from that, that the emphasis on the 21 schools, because it was specifically pointed out in the board document, that this is not going to be an equal division of these funds throughout the district. There's going to be a specific emphasis with the use of some of these funds on these 21 schools. Is that correct?
Yes, there would be additional resources at those 21 schools. And in the way that, and then when I provide more information, you can see the breakdown and exactly what is meant by more resources.
That would help.
It should come back in August, myself. I think it should come back in August, because we don't have full information now, because if the budget is approved, something is going to happen anyway, but there's a specific reason for including this.
We need a full plan. Where we going?
Well, okay.
Sorry, you